Hello and good morning. It's Heather and Phil, and we are leaving Disney's Bay Lake Tower at the Contemporary Resort, and we're going to drive about an hour out to the east coast of Florida, Merritt Island, where we're going to go and make photos at the beautiful Black Point Wildlife Drive. It's about an hour and 15 minutes later now, and we have made it to the Black Point Wildlife Drive. Let's get started. The first bird we photographed was this scraggly looking white ibis. Here's my shot of it. And I tell you, the best shots I made of white ibis during our entire vacation were at Disney World. I photographed them with a 200 millimeter lens and even a 50 millimeter lens. This is Heather's shot of that same white ibis, and you can tell her pictures will say Heather Boyd in the bottom right of her shots. We've seen some spoonbills, but we haven't gotten any shots of them. So far, we're mostly getting snowy egret, as well as I think I got a tricolored. Here's a reflection shot I made of the tricolored heron as it's doing some preening and checking how the feathers are doing under its wing. And I really enjoyed getting reflection shots on this trip to the Black Point Wildlife Drive. Here's another tricolored heron reflection shot. And as you can see, in this shot, I'm only 455 millimeters, so I'm not using all of that 200 to 800. And here I am photographing the snowy egret, and I'm only at 338 millimeters here. So it's possible that the 100 to 500 might have been the better choice, at least for the early part of this day. And now we're looking at Heather's snowy egret shots. She did a beautiful job, as she always does. Here's a couple of 300 millimeter shots of the beautiful snowy egret there in the mangroves. And this one is another 300 millimeter shot of a slightly less fluffed up snowy egret. And here is another snowy egret shot, still at 300 millimeters. And she also made this beautiful photograph at 428 millimeters of this glossy ibis that was taking a dip in the water there. It's kind of overcast today. Heather just got some pictures, and I might have two of glossy ibis and a little blue heron. And then I also continue to work on the snowy egret. I was the only one who got a little blue heron picture today. I just love these birds. Look at the beautiful colors. I love the blue, and then it fades to purple on its neck, and it has some interesting looking eyes. And here is another snowy egret shot. This is mine at 324 millimeters. That leaves me at 7.1 on the 200 to 800. And here is my glossy ibis photograph that I made there while we were on the Black Point Wildlife Drive. I'm working from the driver's seat, and Heather's working from the back seat, and it's raining. This is Heather's glossy ibis photograph. Look how beautiful a job she did capturing this bird. Hers seems a little sharper than mine. It was the same bird, I'm pretty sure. It is still raining, but we pulled up to a little spot right here, and there was some blue-winged teal, just a pair, and right in the middle of the rain, while we're pointing our cameras at them, they mated. I had a little bit of something, mangroves or something, blocking my shot, but I'm pretty sure Heather got a clear shot of it. All of these blue-winged teal shots are Heather's, and this is the male blue-winged teal who has the distinctive colors on his head. And you won't be able to see the female too much in these shots because they're mating, and when ducks mate, the female is almost completely underwater, as you can see here. And the male will take its beak and grab some of the feathers on the back of the female's head to make sure everything stays as he wants it. I think they have what's called forced copulation in the duck world, which may not be the nicest thing ever, but here is the last of Heather's shots of the mating blue-winged teals there on the Black Point Wildlife Drive. We saw some tricolored heron, and I think we might have gotten some shots of pied-billed grebe. Man, I was having to shoot at really slow shutter speeds. Here's my shot of a tricolored heron there in the mangroves. 400 millimeters on the 200 to 800 is what I needed for this one. And the next shot is lower down in the mangroves, and this tricolored heron is doing some fishing. I needed 400 millimeters for this shot as well, but this pied-billed grebe shot, I needed all 800 millimeters, and this is 10,000 ISO, and my shutter speed was only 1/125th of a second. Now here's some of Heather's shots. Of course, she's using the 100 to 500, and this is a 343 millimeter shot, probably that same tricolored heron that I photographed. And she only needed 472 millimeters for this pied-billed grebe shot. It must have gotten a little bit closer when she made this shot. And here's another 472 millimeter shot of the pied-billed grebe. And last in this section is another shot. This one's of Heather's, of the tricolored heron in the mangroves. And we really love photographing tricolored heron. They're pretty common in Florida, but you don't see them at all back home in Tennessee. We saw another snowy. This one was all by itself instead of in a large group like the others we've seen have been. This is the last snowy egret photograph of the morning. This is my shot, 354 millimeters f8 with the 200 to 800. We just saw some American white pelicans that we attempted to photograph in flight. I have a feeling we may have failed. Heather was successful capturing this photograph at 472 millimeters of the American white pelican in flight there over the Black Point Wildlife Drive. And she also captured another pied-billed grebe, just a beautiful little bird. So cute these birds are. And we saw them at this location and another location later today. We just saw a tricolored heron, got a couple shots of it. We're seeing spoonbills, but they're just a long way away. We haven't been able to really get any photographs of them just yet. Here are 3 of my tricolored heron shots, all made with the 200 to 800. This first one, a reflection shot, is at 338 millimeters f8. The next one's higher up in the mangroves, no reflection in this one. Still love the tricolored heron with its beautiful colors and beautiful eyes. And this next one is another reflection shot down low in the mangroves. Just a beautiful bird, and I always enjoy seeing these when we're in Florida. We saw some common gallinule, which is always fun to get a photograph of. Here's my reflection shot of a common gallinule as it's swimming around there at the Black Point Wildlife Drive. Just a cute little bird. I'll never forget the first time we saw one of these over at Vero wetlands years ago. And here's another reflection shot of mine of the common gallinule, but I want you to take a look at Heather's shots that are coming up next. I think hers are just a little bit sharper than mine are of this particular bird. So I don't know if that means the 100 to 500 is sharper or if she just did a better job capturing these. There's other shots in this video where our birds are equally sharp. So I'm not sure exactly what that's telling us, but she definitely did a better job capturing the common gallinule. Heather, what'd you get a photograph of?
Spoonbill.
Here's Heather's spoonbill photograph, just a beautiful bird, and it's really kind of the main bird we were there to see. And look at the pink on the back of its neck. It looks almost like chromatic aberration, but it's just the color of the feathers. We finally found the 2 species we're looking for. There's several spoonbill here. Most of them are hiding behind things and way in the distance. And there's also the rarest of all wading birds, the reddish egret. It's right out there on top of a mangrove. And I definitely got a couple of shots of it with the R7 and the 200 to 800. Here's my shot of that same spoonbill, and it has the same chromatic aberration-like look to its feathers on the back of its neck, but that's just the colors of the feathers. And here is the reddish egret. And I want you to take a look at these shots. These are 800 millimeter shots, wide open at f9, that I made of the reddish in the distance on the mangroves. And here's the same bird. It's taking a look at its undercarriage there to see how its feathers are doing. And it was windy that day, so in this next shot, it's got its head turned and the wind is blowing its feathers up. So I thought that was really cool. But look, all those were at 800 millimeters. And now here's Heather in the same car, shooting at only 500 millimeters at the same bird, and it seems to have just as much detail as my 800 millimeter shot. So she had to crop quite a bit, but the 100 to 500 resolves so well that the birds don't seem to lose any detail, even with a 300 millimeter less shot. This little spot right here where we saw the spoonbills and we also saw reddish egret is definitely the best spot so far. And this is the same spot where we had seen reddish egret and spoonbills 2 years ago. And today we saw 2 reddish egret in the same spot, which is the first time we've ever seen that. We've always ever seen just one lone reddish. Here's Heather's shots of the spoonbills in flight, and they would just fly for just a brief moment in this area, and Heather took the initiative and got the shot. I didn't even try to get them when they flew for just these brief periods, but she was able to bag 2 shots of them in flight that came out really nice. So bravo, Heather. And here is another reddish egret. This one was a little bit closer to the car, and my shot was blocked. I didn't get any of this particular reddish egret. And here is another one of the spoonbills in the distance that Heather made a beautiful shot of. She's got 3 shots of this one And this next one is nice because you can see where it has just pulled its bill out of the water and the water's dripping off of its bill. And this next one after this is her favorite. This one she shared on her social media. She called it a sassy spoonbill, and it's just a great shot. And she was really happy to make it, and she did a fantastic job with it. Here's another one of Heather's shots of the Reddish egret that was a little bit closer than the other one that we shot in the mangroves. And now this bird reminds us more of back home. Here's a great blue heron, which we see all the time back in the Chattanooga area in Tennessee that Heather got in the mangroves. We completed the loop and stopped back at the beginning to kind of figure out what we were going to do. And I saw a palm warbler and made a couple of shots of it with the 200 to 800 on the R7. Here's my shot at 800 millimeters of the palm warbler. And palm warblers are pretty common this time of year. This was in January in Florida. And here's a couple of bonus shots. These were not made on the Black Point Wildlife Drive. We stayed at Disney World's Bay Lake Tower, and this is a pied-billed grebe on Bay Lake. And this next shot, it had just come back up from a dive, and it was shaking off its feathers to get all the water off of them. I was happy to see the pied-billed grebe back at the hotel. Well, that's going to do it for us today here at the Black Point Wildlife Drive. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, reach down, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see some more stuff like this, subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye from Merritt Island, Florida.